What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today we're going to be breaking down the changes that they made to the Lucky Raspberry and making a build that synergizes with it. Before we head into it, let's go down below this video, absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to stick around at the end of the video for an original meme. And without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so we're talking Lucky Raspberry today. What did they do to the poor Lucky Raspberry? And I will say it is a little bit of a nerf to the actual grenade regeneration. You can kind of circumvent it with certain things, and that's what we're going to center our build around today. But it did get a pretty big buff since, let's check it out, it now will overload stun champions. So any of those champions that are overload, they will be stunned on those grenade throws. So that's how they got a little bit of a buff. They're now a little bit more usable in those areas, but it's just going to instantly stun them. You're not going to have to wait for that lightning strike to actually come down from the jolt to stun the overload, and that'll just help you survive a little bit longer. And so let's read this off. The probability matrix increases the chaining capabilities of arcbolt grenades, damaging enemies with jolt lightning strikes and collecting ionic traces. Both grant additional arcbolt grenade energy. Arcbolt grenades stun overload champions and delay their health regeneration. So let's talk our subclass while we get into all of that. So we're running our Gathering Storm Super, just a nice little one-off there. Running the Marksman Dodge for the reload on our weapons because we're using the Ikelos SMG with Volt Shot. So we're going to be jolting tons of targets the whole time, and this will help you so that you don't have to reload it every single time. Maybe that first kill is a little bit slow on the actual reload, and so if you can get a couple of them off, then the reload is basically, you don't have to worry about it because it's so fast with the Feeding Frenzy on there. We're running our combination blow, of course the arcbolt grenade. The aspects we're running are lethal current after dodging your next melee attack, has increased lunge range, jolts the target, and creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with a melee attack also blinds them. So we're going to be able to blind targets pretty easily, and we're going to be having another area that we can jolt, another jolt effect that we can have pretty much all the time on our kills there. We're going to have the flow state aspect as well on. Defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. While you're amplified, your dodge recharges more quickly and you are more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. So we're stacking that reload speed on top of Feeding Frenzy for the Ikelos SMG so we can get as much jolt as we can there. And every time we dodge, we're going to be able to jolt targets with our combination blow melee. So we have tons of jolt available to us. That's going to help to recharge that arcbolt grenade super fast and make it almost like Lucky Raspberry was. You know, you used to be able to hit, 3, 4, 5 targets with it and get your grenade back instantly and just throw it again. They did take that back on us a little bit, so it's not really going to give us a ton of the energy back. It gives us about 20% every time we jolt a target, but you'll see in the mods that we have set up and all the fragments, we're really trying to tone that back and get the Raspberry back to where it was. So we have our fragments here. Spark of resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. We're going to be in the middle of the fray the whole time, so we need that resilience. We have Spark of feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, and since, again, we're in the middle of targets, we're pretty much always going to have that up. And we get plus 10 resilience on that one, which is always helpful. We have Spark of recharge. While critically wounded, your melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly, just trying to stack all that regeneration on top of each other. And then Spark of Instinct. While critically wounded, taking damage emits a burst of arc energy that jolts targets. One more source of jolt, so we can get those grenades back as fast as possible. So if we're counting along at home, we have from the Ikelos SMG, the melee, and now this, we have 3 different ways to jolt targets.
Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!
We're also going to be pairing it with the Thunderlord, which is going to call down lightning strikes and that's going to give us some energy back as well. So no matter what we're doing, we're trying to feed it back into the Lucky Raspberry to get those grenades back as fast as possible. Let's check out the mods that we have equipped in here, running a grenade kickstart, and you absolutely could run 2 of those. Personally, I found that I did not necessarily need that to happen to actually get my grenade back still very, very regularly. We're running a arc weapon surge as well. Let's check out these artifact mods that we have going on. We have our arc strand siphon combo, our elemental orbs arc, refreshing pickups, and communal pickups as well, and that's pretty much all that we have that's relevant there as well. So now that we've got all that out of the way, let's check out some of the gameplay and see just how strong it is. See you there. Alright, so this build is super strong for anything that has to deal with champions specifically. And unfortunately, if you don't really find yourself dealing with too many champions, I have to say they did the Lucky Raspberry a little bit of a disservice. Let's talk about why. For all the Lucky Raspberry enthusiasts before this patch, it was so much fun to run around and throw an arc bolt grenade and pretty much get it back instantly from just chaining as many enemies as possible to the jolt. And that was where the Lucky Raspberry really shined. And after these changes, as you can see, even with a grenade kickstart on, we are lucky to get 45-50% of our grenade back maximum. And so we're heavily relying on our Ikelos SMG to get the jolt on all of the targets around it so that we can get those grenades back as fast as possible. And we're still getting them back pretty quickly, but it's definitely a far cry from where we had the Lucky Raspberry just a few short weeks ago. Having said all that, I don't want to be too down on the Lucky Raspberry though, because depending on some of my team synergies, if I was to go and do something like a Grandmaster Nightfall, for instance, I wouldn't rule this build out or take it off the table. If I was going to go and run Legend Lost Sectors, I definitely would keep this build at the near top of my list, depending on what the other modifiers were and the champions that we're going to be seeing. So long as we're going to be seeing Overload champions, this build is going to perform, and it's going to do very well, because stunning Overload champions is a huge pain. It's a really huge pain point, and I mean, we just needed a way that was a little bit more reliable to stun them. And since now just the initial shock from these grenades will stun any unstoppable champion, I'm sorry, Overload champion, just that shock will unstun them. I mean, it definitely puts in a whole lot of work where you need it to. And don't get me wrong, this build is still a ton of fun. The grenades are a lot of fun to use and chain that lightning around to all the targets around it, but I definitely think that Bungie could be a little bit more generous with the overall grenade energy that they give us, or in the jolt give us a little bit more, because right now the only real reason that I have my grenade energy up so high so often is because of the elemental orbs arc. Whenever you pick up one of those, it's not when you deal damage, you literally don't actually have to hit any enemies with it. Whenever you pick up one of those, you will see that I gain, you know, somewhere around 30 or 40% of my grenade charge just from picking it up. And I'm not sure if that was because Bungie couldn't get the chain arc energy to actually trigger and proc the grenade refund energy, but you know, regardless, once this season is over, the Lucky Raspberry is going to take a big hit, and it's probably going to fall off a little bit. But I mean, while it's up and active right now, it's a ton of fun. I suggest you try it out. Guardians, that's going to have to be all for me for now. Let's go ahead and throw that meme up on the screen. And let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these changes that they made to the Lucky Raspberry. Do you like the updated functionality? Do you prefer it? Or would you rather go back to having infinite arc bolt grenades? Let me know. And until next time, Guardians, be without form, swift as lightning.